Good evening, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the December the 10th meeting of the Planning and Development Board. I understand our chairman is on the way, stuck in some traffic. He should be joining us momentarily. First item on the agenda tonight is the roll call, Madam Secretary.
All right, Michael Boyd,
Here.
Anthony Lombardo,
Here.
Dan Wilcox,
Here.
Timothy Connor.
Here.
Okay, we do have a full quorum.
Thank you. We'd like to invite everyone to stand with us and pledge the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God. Next item of business is the approval of the November the 12th meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Item number 4 has been postponed, and so we'll go to item number 5. And that's a discussion on the update to the comprehensive plan.
Actually, we would request that because item number 4 has been noticed, that
Oh,
you
okay.
open it up for public comment.
Okay, we'll do that. Item number 4 is quasi judicial, requiring disclosure of any ex parte communications. Anyone have anything to report? No? Okay. Site development plan and the PUD, plan unit development district. Do you have anything to say, or you just want me to open up to the public?
You can just open up to the public.
Okay. We'll open it up to public comments. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on this item this evening, please come forward. Seeing no one come up, we'll close public comments and move to item number 5. Is that right? Okay. And this is a proposed update to the comprehensive plan. Turn the time over to you.
Evening, Chair, members of the board. Chuck Miranda, Growth Management Assistant Director. This is a discussion item on our comprehensive plan update. I just want to get a little bit of background into what we're doing here. The comprehensive plan is a master plan how we're going to grow in the next 25 years. It establishes our community's policies and priorities regarding future development. That's why it's very important to us. It's a blueprint for future land uses, housing, conservation, and recreational amenities, amongst other things. An important component of it is the infrastructure and growth demands needed for this community. And through our consultant, Inspire Placemaking, we held a series of public meetings, and the planning board was involved in several of them. And from those meetings, we created a framework for this plan. Now, after we rewrite this plan, the policies, goals, and objectives will be implemented by our land development code. That'll be our rewrite process. When we did this in 2011, when we updated our comprehensive plan, we didn't have a rewrite on our land development code. So we didn't implement our 2011 plan. This time we will. So we're being careful on what we have in this plan because we know it's going to be implemented this time. Any questions from the board? General? Okay, with that, I want to introduce Sarah Spector. She's our assistant county attorney. She's replacing Sean tonight. And hopefully she's going to be a permanent fixture in our planning board meetings. I'm gonna leave it to Simone, our senior planner. She's going to explain the changes in the policy goals and objectives that we came up with.
Excuse me, we'd like to recognize the chairman's.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I got stuck on that traffic on US 1 when the paving wasn't very nice.
Simone Kenny, planner. So Flagler Forward is the visioning plan that was the culmination of all of the public engagement that we've had over the past year. The vision plan is really the guiding framework for how we then change and update our comprehensive plan. The intent of the visioning plan really is to identify and promote a shared community vision for the future of Flagler County. It results in two parts: the 2050 Community Vision Statement, which provides that aspirational framework, and then also the vision directives, which are the community-driven actionable strategies that can be implemented within the comprehensive plan. And now to sort of recap again what we've all been doing for about the past year now. To get the public engagement, we created our project website, which is the landing space really for anybody who is concerned with the comprehensive plan process. By this point, we've had over 2,000 website visits. Through the website, we had over 1,200 surveys taken. We've also had about 10 various meetings, including with the public, with stakeholders, and with you and the Board of Commissioners. And finally, we've also had about 17 targeted input activities at these workshops and through the website. I do want to take this time again to read into the record what that community vision statement was. And it states that in the year 2050, Flagler County will represent the best Florida has to offer: scenic waterfronts, working farmlands, and charming rural communities preserved through the strategic cultivation and growth of walkable and vibrant neighborhoods served by resilient and sustainable infrastructure. And the vision directives are what you might have expected to come out of the community engagement process, primarily increasing resiliency against natural disaster, concentrating future growth to existing urban areas, and by doing so, conserving our natural environment, preserving the charm and character of rural communities, and supporting our agricultural operations and industries. Other important directives were cultivating a more affordable and diverse housing market and diversifying local employment opportunities. Back in September was the last time we had a discussion on the elements, and that is when we discussed the housing, intergovernmental coordination, and conservation elements. Tonight we'll be discussing the future land use element, the transportation element, economic development, recreation and open space, coastal management, infrastructure, and capital
Can you,
improvements.
Simone, I want to go through those, but on the very first one, new policies, the very first one, increased FAR.
Mhm.
So increased it which way? Increased it meaning having more impervious or less impervious?
So the FAR is the floor area ratio. That is the intensity of the use, and that would be increased because right now it is currently very low. And then the impervious area we would increase as well for commercial uses.
So we are increasing the amount of floor area or impervious.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a number that we're going to?
Yes, I don't have it in front of me currently. The floor area ratio for commercial is 0.45, which is comparatively quite low to other jurisdictions, and we're proposing to increase it to 1,
To what?
to a floor area ratio of 1.
And, excuse me, Simone, these are for multi-story buildings. So typically the floor area, every story counts. It's just not the roof. So if we have a 4-story building, you'd multiply the footprint by 4. That's why our number is very low compared to other jurisdictions. And our consultant had recommended we raise that number, and we had thought about it several years ago because we had a storage unit coming in that was multiple stories, and they couldn't meet that 0.35, 0.45.
Now, are we changing the maximum height?
No, but in commercial, is it 75, Simone? I believe it is 65.
665.
65 in
So,
certain
yeah.
zones.
Mhm.
So if we had a multi-story building, but it's still controlled by the retention and the parking. So we're still going to have a quality product. It'll just be a higher number to suit the industry. And as far as the impervious area, you may remember we had variances for the BJ's project due to that common stormwater. So our impervious was slightly high due to, I'm going to say antiquated site plans. When we have a common stormwater development, all your stormwater's in a separate tract. So to get a modern kind of design, we're going to increase the impervious so we don't have to get variances for site plans.
You would increase it, right?
Yeah, we would increase it. I believe, Simone, it was, did they go to 7%?
Yeah, 70 to
Yeah.
80%.
Because with the
Right.
parking.
So we still have a landscaping element to it, but we don't
Exactly,
have to have
and
the
we have
retention and all that.
parking controls that. But as far as stormwater, typically, if you have a commercial subdivision, it's taken,
I can tell you as a developer, especially on a commercial side, that commercial development helps pay, is a taxpayer bonus. And it's also a service that everybody needs. We need that. We need it for jobs. We need it for the things they do. But the impervious areas kill these projects because they are required to have a big piece of land, which is hard to find. And then you're dedicating so much of it to non-productive elements that the project starts to become, infeasible. And to a lot of them look at it and say, this is not worth it. We can go somewhere else.
because Palm Coast has a exemption for common retention areas.
Mhm.
We don't have that. That's why
Right.
those properties in front of BJ's, if they were in Palm Coast, they wouldn't have to get a variance. So we want to kind of update our comp plan, which is going to go.
Yeah,
into
well,
that.
we worked that anyway because we did approve the BJ site.
But it was just another step they had to take, which was really, they had the retention, and the whole project had a lot of open space anyhow.
Okay.
Thank you, Chuck. So you all were provided with a strike-through and underline edits of the proposed changes, as well as a document highlighting these changes, and these have been included in the record. And I'll be briefly going through them just to highlight the big important changes. So the future land use element really is the pinnacle of the comprehensive plan, and it guides the distribution, location, and intensity of uses necessary for accommodating the county's projected population growth. A big concern that emerged from all of the community engagement is development sprawling out from the municipalities into our ag and rural lands. So many of the changes include language to strengthen our intergovernmental coordination with our municipalities on how to handle the growth, including potentially the creation of an interlocal service boundary agreement to more concretely guide where this development will happen. There are also several changes and new policies to increase the potential of commercial and industrial lands in line with the county's strategic plan in order to improve access to services, increase employment opportunities, and diversify our tax base. So here was provided to you in the background document, really just a highlight of all the new objectives and policies proposed. The transportation element assists in planning for future transportation enhancements and improving mobility for residents as well as goods and services. Last year, the whole of Flagler County was included in the boundaries of the River to Sea Transportation Planning Organization, which is our regional TPO that helps guide transportation improvements as well as distributes state and federal funds. And it was recently renamed the Volusia Flagler TPO to reflect this change. So many of the new policies pertain to coordinating with the TPO on various goals, such as long-range transportation planning, special studies and reports, and multimodal goals.
So, we are doing Flagler County and not the municipalities, because that's what our planning district, encompasses. And I like the one over here about the railroad, the train, but that obviously is going to be a Bunnell issue that we can encourage and work with them, we are sort of mixing those together because we don't have the facility land, in county enough to do that, but that would be something we have to implement with Bunnell.
Yes, and we did hear through our engagement process that was, kind of a far shoot or that we shouldn't really concern ourselves with it. but we do know that the various municipalities and jurisdictions around us are having that conversation about the potential for rail and Brightline inching up the coast. So really the last thing we want is to be left out of that conversation
Right.
or skipped out, and that's why we included it.
Okay.
The economic development element is an optional element that the county opted to pursue to address current economic issues and anticipated challenges. We addressed better priming of the land for economic development, or rather for commercial and industrial uses, through the future land use element. So the changes in this element focus more on strengthening the existing economic base through promoting affordable housing options for the workers already located within the county. Additionally, several of the policies are intended to promote and strengthen the existing tourism industry and trying to stabilize it to be more of a year-round industry rather than seasonal. The recreation and open space element is intended to provide high-quality public facilities that meet the needs of existing and future populations, and through the engagement process was identified as one of the county's biggest assets. There weren't too many changes proposed. Primarily, they were just concerned with linking the comprehensive plan with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan that was adopted last year. The coastal management element is intended to plan for the protection of natural resources, properties, and infrastructure against the impact of sea level rise, storm surges, and other flood-related issues associated with coastal living. Changes included updating to meet state statutes regarding coastal high hazard areas and discouraging higher intensity development within these areas. Another key objective.
Do we know if that, or do we already have nursing homes and special need places within those areas?
I don't believe we have any that are identified right now. So it's mainly a policy
To not
to not
okay.
permit them. And then another key objective is requiring any new developments to maintain or enhance public access to the beaches.
And this maybe doesn't go in there. I know, Chuck, that we were trying to get permission from all the landowners for that beach, what do you call it, beach renourishment or beach
It was the
maintenance?
easements.
Is that a
yeah.
policy we put in here or not?
We don't have it in there. I believe we got most of the easements in place. Sarah, do
So
you
it
know
already-
if,
We've pretty much gotten to that goal then?
I believe so. Were you involved in, I know Sean and Elle were. So when we do have a development, we do request the easement. And I believe we got most of it in place.
That's a policy we don't think we need in here then. For that, we're going to achieve all of that before this.
There is a policy, and you have to remember that a lot of this was from the 2011 rewrite. So when we're saying new, we mean new added to there. So a lot of the 2011 wasn't
Yeah, but that
implemented.
wasn't in 2011.
But we
happened
do
after
have
those
beach
storms.
renourishment objectives in the coastal element. I believe we do, but it doesn't speak of the easement. So,
Well, if, yeah, you all need to look at that.
okay,
whether or
we're
not-
gonna discuss whether or not, first of all, we're gonna see where we're at on the
Yeah, I mean,
easements.
if you got 95 or 99% of it, it's not.
Yeah,
probably-
and I know we got the one from Solitude, so we're almost connected up there. So we're looking into it. We're discussing if we need to add it, we're at it before the board.
The infrastructure element provides an inventory and analysis of future needs of services like potable water, wastewater treatment, solid waste, drainage, and stormwater management. Important thing to consider is the county is not a utility provider. And so therefore, there's again, an emphasis on intergovernmental coordination with the municipalities that do provide services. Other than that, there are not many changes.
Yeah, let me ask you about that one, though. I hate to keep bugging in everywhere, but, so the advanced treatment, I mean, I used to be a septic installer years ago.
Mhm.
So this, I don't know what the advanced treatment is, but that sounds like an additional cost, maybe aeration or additional chambers, or it sounds like a more expensive septic system than what we've been putting in the past.
Yes, it is more expensive.
Okay, so with the
It's-
goal of trying to have more affordable housing, which would probably be on the west side of the county, how does
Yeah.
that figure in? And is this because we have a state mandate
Yes.
by DEP or whatever that we have to do this?
We have a state mandate and it goes to the health department now will be the DEP. It's not only the expense building it, it has to be maintained. So once a year it needs an inspection. So you have a maintenance cost on top of that.
Does that mean even an existing system that needs to be rebuilt down the
No, the
road?
new systems that are west of US 1 on lots smaller than 1 acre have to have this advanced treatment.
A lot smaller than 1 acre.
In,
Okay.
in not only the, like I said, the capital cost of building the systems, but it's a maintenance, it's a yearly maintenance contract.
Wow,
And that's
okay.
a state mandate. Now, why they didn't go on the Barrier Island, we question that, but we don't know because that's where the smaller lots are.
Yeah,
So,
but Daytona North mostly will be exempted. I mean, the corner lots are like
Well,
0.97 of an acre.
some of those are smaller and the ones along 305 and along,
Yeah. 305.
the back.
Most of those are already developed, though. Unless you
Some
go
are-
into what they call Quigley Bay, and I don't think.
yeah, those are wetlands, but there's some lots that are less and there's some other lots along 2006 that are less. So we tell the people when they come in to say they want to purchase it, we tell them, go to the health department, find out what you need, but it is an added expense.
Okay.
And we didn't add any more burden to them. We just are going to follow the state is
Yeah.
what, the way we're writing it.
One of those unfunded mandates.
And then finally is the capital improvements element, which guides the yearly capital improvement plan, the CIP plan. Again, not many changes, really only strengthening a policy that the county will implement a proportionate fair share transportation program to ensure that the impact of developments on the transportation network are mitigated. So that was the very, very brief run through of the changes to these 7 elements. Both Chuck and I are here for any more questions, comments, or recommendations of changes.
Does anyone on the board want to bring up anything or
No, I'm good.
throw any eggs or? Okay, thank you, Simone.
Yep.
So I wasn't, obviously, I was, will that conclude the, your presentation on that?
Yes, and that concludes my presentation.
Okay. I wasn't here for the quasi judicial announcement and this number 4. Did we open it up and close it for public hearing? Did we do that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well then I'm assuming, staff comments?
I just wanted to update the board on our process for this. Once we get comments, some additional comments from maybe the A1A committee, don't know. We're going to have the consultant introduce those comments in the document, and then hopefully we're going to take it to the commission in January. And it's going to go, then be transmitted to the state. Simone, maybe you can tell them that process of the transmittal.
So after it's heard by the Board of County Commission, we have 10 days to transmit it to the state, who will review, provide any additional comments or critiques. And then we have a much more extended time, I believe 3 to 6 months, to then incorporate those comments and then bring it back again to the Board of County Commission for adoption.
Hopefully, we can get this thing adopted. I'm being a little liberal here, maybe before summer. So in the meantime, when we get our work done with this, we're going to concentrate on the Land Development Code rewrite. We've decided to have a consultant do it. It's going to be a legal consultant. It's going to be a total rewrite.
You know, they've done this before, Chuck. I remember being involved years and years ago, and they had a lot of stakeholders around the meeting
Yes.
and all that, and they were working item through item. Very different than what this was. I know staff did this, but you just had public input and they
Yes.
came in and gave you something and left and took out a survey. And I know that when you had those stakeholders around, both from different boards and different people in the community from different types of things, that there was a lot of interaction, there was a lot of give and take. So I don't know if you guys are considering that or just to do the sort of, I hate to call it in the blind, but it's sort of,
Well, yes.
other than staff, you guys, everything else is sort of, all this stuff is
So
done and then it just,
Once we get the framework of a modern land development code, which are, I'm going to say is antiquated, once we get that framework in the details from our consultant, Sarah's going to work with us on the legal aspects of it. Then we're going to have the stakeholders, we have some public meetings with stakeholders. We're not, to take input from them. But our main concern is to get the comprehensive plan elements in there as a total rewrite.
Mhm.
We have to modernize, say, our parking requirements, things like that, to get a consultant to do it, and then we're
Right.
gonna
the
vet it. to the
sign
public.
code is always something that,
Our sign code, there was a Supreme Court ruling in Arizona 10 years ago. We never updated our sign code.
Mhm.
We're really in position to have lawsuits against us
Mhm.
because we're controlling content. Things like that, and that will be on, staff's gonna have a wish list of what we want in that code, and we're gonna give it to the consultant so they can write around that. So, but once again, there will be various public meetings.
and some of the things that this board keeps saying, for instance, is this, we keep getting variance requests because somebody wants, they have their patio, not their pool, but their patio is too close to the backyard. And many communities don't consider that patio. We do. And maybe that some of the things that we keep seeing in this board that, we're approving anyway, but maybe need to be looked at. And is that really a detriment to, to allow that or not? Because it seems to be common and maybe not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but
Yeah, variances will be looked at also to, I'm going to say the word modernize the components of a variance too. So we're looking at all that. We got a lot of work ahead of us on this rewrite, and hopefully it's going to work out this time. I think we tried 3 times in the past 20 years and just couldn't get it.
no, I know. There was several attempts and
I know you were on a
I was
committee.
slated to help, but we never had a meeting.
I remember going over the OC for months and months at a time, page by page with a citizen group, and we never got anywhere.
Yeah.
So it was just a long time.
Do we have a
coming.
time frame that you're looking to have that thing done?
Depending on the consultant, maybe Sarah can, what's the norm? I know when Daytona Beach did theirs, it was at least 2 years. I'm not sure.
2 years?
Sarah has.
I'll be
maybe
dead by
timeframes.
then.
I would say at least a year, if not 2. It's a long process. And we have to wait for the comp plan to be done so we can
Yeah.
incorporate those
Correct.
policies and
Is
goals.
F-Card involved in the process at all at this point? F-Card? P-Card and F-Card?
She doesn't know what that is.
They were identified as stakeholders in the comprehensive plan process, yes. But we haven't reached out to anybody regarding the land development code rewrite at this time.
Okay.
On the comp plan, they were given a chance to interview with a consultant. I'm not sure if
Mhm.
they showed up. That was at the beginning. We had interviews, but they will be involved in the LDC rewrite.
Yeah, I
They will
mean,
be
the LDC is where the
major
rubber hits the
stakeholder.
road, and there's much more of those things that everybody deals with, than this 50,000, view, but view of on the comp plan. So that there's definitely going to be more
Because
things to say and talk about.
And one other thing we learned that to piece this thing together, I'm going to bring out the tree ordinance. Because the stakeholders could have been involved, but they weren't, it was just meetings. We got we got a question today, why did this happen? Well, even though there were public meetings, they weren't involved. So in land development code rewrite, there's going to be more involvement. And we all know that instead of trying to piece this together.
Well, there lies the dilemma, and probably an insurmountable dilemma. So month after month, we sit here on this board, and the audience is filled with people complaining about something, and they want us to fix it. And we're constrained by the code.
Mhm.
And we can't fix it because the code guides us to a result. And where are they tonight? Why aren't they packing this room, telling us what they want in the code, and they're not gonna get involved, and we're never gonna get sufficient input from them. They're just gonna come and complain about the way the code works after we do it. I don't know how to resolve that, but I think that's our biggest problem. I think that's what we face, is trying to get the people who have a real stake in this, the ones that live here, the residents, not the developers, not the F-card folks, not the lawyers that do development work. I mean, we all have our views and do that. But the developers that I deal with, and Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, the people that I know just want a level playing field. They don't care so much as what the rules are, as just knowing that everybody's playing by the same set. But it's the public that has the complaints about, well, how can you build a parking lot 100 feet from my residential community? Well, it's on A1A, it's next to a gas station. Where else would you put a parking lot? So I just, maybe I'm jumping to board comments here and on the agenda, but that I see as a major stumbling block. I've served on probably 3 of the rewrite groups over the years ago, and 2 on the Land Development Code, and 1 when the county still owned Palm Coast Parkway, and we did a parkway study. And none of that ever came to fruition. The county commission never passed any of the stuff that we came up with. Do we have any confidence that we're going to get stuff through the commission at this point?
That's a question. Let me talk about our outreach. So we have communication, we have social media, we have a communication department, excuse me, that we will outreach to the public through social media. It worked for the comprehensive plan. We got a lot of feedback. So in modern days, we have more outreach ability to the public. Let me just leave it at that. As far as the board is ready to go on this, the commission, there's been a lot of questions about the Land Development Code and the comp plan. This is part of our task. Ms. Petito's task is to bring it to the board, and I think we're going to be on schedule.
Yeah, I think, Tim, to your point though, and I 100% agree with you. We have people coming in, they're all the residential people is what we're talking about. And they get upset because there's something happening in their neighborhood and they had no idea or they don't understand it. And a lot of their frustration is actually misguided anyway. But to the point, there are some things that they have legitimate concerns about. So, I guess when you do that, Chuck, maybe the comment from some of us here would be that outreach, maybe if you guys were to look again into the elements, and as you do the rewrite, the elements that may touch a nerve with the public, those are the things that you could, hey, we're going to have this thing coming up, you put it in the paper, you put it in the website, whatever you do, and come to this meeting. This is the time that you voice your opinion. And at least you get some of them, and, and maybe those voices will rise and have some good input.
And maybe
the
get
best
some
you can. You
ideas
can't
from it.
please
I mean,
everybody.
If we had a room full of green shirts tonight, we would probably be hearing some things that we hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
Yes, so our first public meeting was in the hammock, and we had a very good turnout, and we got a lot of good input. Same with the Land Development Code. Hopefully, we can have meetings at different locations to serve the public better as far as areas. And the hammock will be one of the meetings that we will probably have first, as we did with the comp plan, and they can have their voice heard.
So we've kind of morphed this into board comments. So do we have any more board comments? I have one thing to say. I don't know if you all know, but I'd like to introduce one of our newest commissioners, Kim Carney. Hey, Kim. You just had nothing to do tonight. You want to come out here and enjoy this exciting meeting. We're glad to have you here tonight. Public
excuse me.
comments, that would be you. Any public comments? Seeing none, ask for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank